Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
7:37. Happy New Year. 5th day of January 20th. Also, Merry Christmas. Still, we can still say Merry Christmas. Thank you very much.
We can.
Coming up at 8:05, Matt Flapp, CPAC, will join us. The CPAC's been efforting quite a bit for freedom and democracy in Latin America. So we'll get his thoughts on the efforts in Venezuela over the weekend. 8:35, General Jack Keane will give us the military analysis. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
And what a day to have Robert Spencer on. There's a ton of things, Mr. Spencer, as you know. His brand new book, Intifada on the Hudson, The Selling of Zohran Mamdani. He's also, by the way, the book of Holy Hell, Islam's Abuse of Women and the Infidels Who Enable It. There's much to talk about with regard to the new mayor of New York. There's much to talk about with what's going on in Iran, as well as Iran's and jihadi terrorist influence in Venezuela. So, Robert, thanks for joining us on a busy morning.
Happy to be here, Larry. Thank you.
Let's start with the mayor of New York. He talked a good game. As you put it, the selling of Zohran Mamdani, he was absolutely a produced product, and the voters in New York went for it, not least of which because their alternative was Andrew Cuomo, an odious political figure. And there are reports that immediately after he took office, there have already been some moves that should be deeply concerning to the Jewish community in New York and anyone who supports them and the state of Israel. What have you seen so far?
Yeah, he immediately removed some protections from churches and synagogues from having demonstrations outside. It's quite obvious what he intends with that he intends people, particularly at synagogues, to be harassed and shouted, screamed at, and who knows what. He also eradicated a definition of anti-Semitism that Mayor Adams, his predecessor, had established by executive order. The New York Times reports just this morning that this was the intent of what he did. What he did on his first day was cancel all of Adams' executive orders from the day that Adams was indicted by the Biden administration up until he left office. And
Wow.
So it looks like he said, I'm just giving us a clean slate here because this guy was tainted. But the Times actually revealed today that he just meant to remove the protections from Jews. And he did the whole thing about eradicating the executive orders from the indictment on as a cover.
He also has just appointed a controversial lawyer, Ramzi Qassem, who defended an al-Qaeda terrorist as the city's top attorney. What gives with that?
Well, this is clearly where the man's sentiments lie, when he said, I will not condemn the phrase globalize the Intifada, we have to remember what that means. That's really a call for the murder of Jews wholesale, Jewish civilians, anywhere in the world. And when he refuses to say, oh, that's abominable, then we know what side he's on. And so he gets an al-Qaeda lawyer in there. It's not really a surprise. One thing you got to say about this young man, he's consistent.
It's terrifying to say the least that this guy is now in charge of New York City. And I have to say, as an expert on Islam, on terrorism, on jihadists, is it appropriate for me to instinctively see him getting sworn in as mayor of New York, resting his hands on a 19th century Quran as well as his grandfather's Quran, in the shadow of what used to be the Twin Towers, and not think in my gut that this is some sort of despicable victory lap being taken here?
Well, of course it is. See, this is what nobody wants to recognize, that the 9/11 hijackers were motivated by Islamic teachings. Nobody wants to admit that. Nobody wants to acknowledge its existence, but those teachings are in the Quran. Mamdani knows them. Osama bin Laden knew them. The 9/11 hijackers knew them. And they were acting upon their belief in those teachings. So when Mamdani is sworn in on the Quran, that is absolutely a declaration that the war that was declared or waged against the United States on 9/11 has now been won by the wrong side. And people refuse to acknowledge this because they want to pretend that Islam is a religion of peace.
We're speaking with Robert Robert Spencer, author of the book Intifada on the Hudson, the selling of Zohran Mamdani. If you could, Mr. Spencer, we've seen extraordinary images coming out of the nation of Iran. Protests continue with the flag being stripped down, with people calling for the return of the crown prince, the Shah's son, who has been in exile for 50 years. We've seen protests before. Is this different? And if so, why?
Well, it's only different because it's happening on the heels of protests that we saw just a couple of years ago over Mahsa Amini, a young woman who was murdered while in police custody after she was arrested for wearing her hijab improperly. And that was only a couple of years after the Green Movement demonstrations. And that was only a couple of years after demonstrations that Barack Obama refused to support. And so how many times is the whole nation going to rise up and the regime is going to be able to survive it? Also, this is an Iranian regime that has just lost one of its best friends in Venezuela and has suffered catastrophic defeats in regard to the airstrikes from Israel on its nuclear program, the destruction of Hezbollah, the drastic weakening of Hamas, as well as the Houthis. This is a regime that all of its pet projects have come to naught, and I think that its days are numbered at this point.
I was just going to say, if you had to put money on it, 1 year from now, in 2027, will we still be talking about this regime in Iran, or will we be talking about a new regime?
I think it's very likely we'll be talking about a new regime at this point.
What a remarkable time to be alive. Robert Spencer, get his book, Intifada on the Hudson, the selling of Zohran Mamdani, so that you're informed and educated about what's about to happen up in Gotham. Robert, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.